Builders are getting desperate. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I want to have a look at this article from the Financial Review discussing how builders are getting desperate and they're hoping for relief. Now, we're hearing this nearly every day or every other day, every week at least on the channel here. We're discussing a new builder that appears to be going under. And, well, it's kind of sad. Times are going to get tough. And we have to remember that this mess, in part, was exacerbated by government intervention. Okay? The government used the building construction sector to stimulate the economy. They've been juicing up the market forever. The home builder. You know, you had, 10,000 homes? Or in a month? More than that. Hang on, let me full screen it so I can see. There we go, yeah. 12,500 to 15,000. The approvals for homes shot up significantly because of this intervention. They're pulling projects forward, guys. You've got first home buyer grants, 88 grand, and now we've got Labor going to go in and buy 40% of people's homes. And what really scared me the most was this one, keeping the zombie companies alive. Okay? They kept them alive. They allowed businesses to trade while they were insolvent. This is why all the predictions people can make about the market, I'll see them on Twitter going, housing's going to fall 40%, 50%, it's going to be this correction. They can change the rules. They can change the rules, guys. And frankly, how much of the stuff we're seeing in the media, particularly when it comes to housing, is then used to justify political intervention? Remember the RBA, the only modeling that the media jumped on was the 40% correction, the 40% fall. I was the same. I wanted to see it. I wanted to see, to see what these predictions for a 40% fall, if it would actually happen. It'd be nuts if it would. Even if we get a 25% fall, we're not going to be going back that far. Only a couple of years, guys. And, back then we were still bitching about housing affordability. So we have to keep this all in mind. We have to remember, people need to be reminded constantly that this mess is because the government's juiced up the market. They let companies keep running when they shouldn't have, and they've created this whole mess. So, against the wall, builders hope for relief. This, in many ways, I think this is a profitless boom for a lot of people. So, written by Michael Bleeby. Thomas Staff has moved back in with his friends. The social work student from regional Victoria was living in a 4-person share house in Hughesdale in Melbourne's southeastern suburbs when in 2020 he came across a listing for a studio apartment in Flinders Street, just asking for $200 a week. Staff had looked at renting in the city before, but never found anything for less than $300, which was above his price range. However, this apartment was just $20 more than the $180 he was already paying in his share house, so he decided it was worth the cost. I moved out because I like living alone, he said. I wanted more freedom. Even if it's a small studio, it's all mine. Yeah, I can understand. He wasn't alone in his decision to live solo. Reserve Bank of Australia Deputy Governor Lucy Ellis this week said that over the past 2 years, when Australia had almost zero inbound migration, the number of households rose by 140,000 as people put a premium on having more private space during the pandemic. You can't blame people for that. This rapid increase in what economists call household formation went a long way towards offsetting the loss in demand for how the housing market would have suffered from the loss of about 200,000 new households being formed from immigration. And Federal Government Housing Agency, and HFIC, earlier this year noted that there was an increase of 35,000 single-person households this year. In central Melbourne, forests of apartment towers emptied during the pandemic as students, workers and tourists deserted them. In response, new renters moved into those apartments at extraordinarily low rents. We saw the apartment rental rate lower significantly, and then saw people who generally wouldn't be able to afford market rents in the CBD have access to those leases, said Irene Theosolidis, Secretary of Renters and Housing Union, an advocacy group for residential tenants formed during the pandemic. But that shifted. that shift, which created many of these smaller households Ellis identified, now appears to be in reverse. Noyce says, all last year, particularly from September to December, we saw a huge wave of people moving out of apartments they got quite cheaply. Staff was one. At the start of last year, after his landlord raised the rent on the apartment to $300 a week, he decided to move back into his share house. So, still, the arrival of larger households in the private rental sector could offer an unexpected but welcome escape valve for the embattled construction sector, which is at breaking point trying to keep up with the demand for houses. Demand is only expected to increase as Australia's international borders reopen and immigrants return. And as we saw in a previous video I did, there's going to be more and more calls for migrants coming into Australia. Just as the increase in household formation offset the 200,000 household reduction in household demand from immigrants, it's likely to go the other way when immigrants start returning, says AMP Capital Chief Economist Shane Oliver. The big now unknown is in which trend moves faster. If immigrants can come back quickly, it will probably offset or overwhelm the decline in household formation that's likely to occur, or the increase in household size that's likely to occur. Current workbooks are already putting companies at breaking point. Construction times have blown out. The Housing Industry Association this week said the average time to build a house had risen by almost half to 12.2 months. Newly appointed Treasurer Jim Chalmers this week acknowledged the pressures on companies in the frantic market, where new detached houses starts rose in the September quarter to a record 149,515, more than one-third above the two-decade average figure of 110,122 homes. Some of the conversations that I've been having over the last 2 days are about the quite extreme conditions that a lot of builders are dealing with because they might have signed contracts 12 or 18 months ago, Chalmers said in his first post-election press conference. So that is, I think, one of the really pressing problems that we have right now, one of the consequences of skyrocketing inflation, particularly when it comes to building materials and other important parts of the supply chain. I recognize that challenges, and we will work with them to the extent that we can. Cost rose at the fastest pace in 21 years in March, at the same time as many home construction companies are coming to fixed-price contracts with customers with little wiggle room on price. And we're seeing this, aren't we? With builders just going under. And costs are expected to keep rising. Building material supplier James Hardie Industries this month said it had raised its prices in total by 9% in the past 6 months alone. Economists say they will remain permanently higher. From boom to bust. The building sector suffered another blow this week as Queensland-based builder Pivotal Homes went into liquidation. The Gold Coast builder had 103 contracts under construction and a further 177 on which it hadn't started work when it went into liquidation on Thursday. Like fellow Gold Coast builder Condev, which went into liquidation on March, Pivotal Homes boss Michael Irwin could see he was going to drown in a sea of red ink as surging building costs evaporated the profits from his fixed-price contracts and pulled the plug before it got worse. What he has recognized is the company is likely to be insolvent at some stage in the future because of the huge increase in prices, said Irwin's lawyer, Derek Cronin. Some contracts have really long tails and builders end up bound to complete construction in cases where the cost base has increased to such that they're operating at a loss. The pressures on the sector are set to persist for the next few years, not just from higher materials and labour shortages, but also from higher interest rates as borrowing costs rise. Ironically, the difficulties the construction industry faces may be putting a floor under the economy as the delay in work because of shortages of workers and materials and worsened by floods in New South Wales and Queensland actually prolonging the pipeline of work. Economists last week said the declines recorded in house building over the March quarter reflected an ability to complete work rather than a loss of demand, and said the 0.9% decline across construction in total would have only a muted effect on this week's upcoming quarterly GDP numbers. So there we go, everyone. Builders getting desperate. Housing demand increasing for immigration. Well, let's talk about this one. Are any of us at all surprised here? This is just a continuation of the construction apocalypse that we're in the middle of. We'll have to see how this year plays out, how many other builders pull the plug. And just wait to see more calls from industry bodies for more people to come over to keep property at the level it is. What do you reckon? Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one in the comments below. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I find and put together here, there are a few ways you can help out. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon, use our referral links from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband, or contact us if you need an architect. Take care, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode, everyone. It's going to be an interesting year, that's for sure.